Now then, guys, welcome back to the Cycle Sunday podcast. Sadly, my friend, we are not sat on the same sofa with two dogs, gin and tonics, and flashy red ice cubes.
It's rubbish.
It's rubbish, isn't it?
It's
but I
rubbish.
do have alcohol.
and so do I. Just don't tell Rosie.
No. Yeah, this is I got a beer advent calendar from my lovely brother-in-law. So you open each window every day has a bottle of beer behind it, which is great. So yesterday it was the Three Vice Men from St Austell Brewery. Do you like what they've done there?
Yeah. Sorry, can we just back up a second?
Yeah.
You've got a beer advent calendar.
Yeah.
So it's just basically a big box with
Yeah.
doors in it to a beer for 24 days.
Yeah.
That you have to have, otherwise it's like bad luck.
Yeah. So I have to drink a beer every day for the next 24 days. In fact, last night, because I got back and Tracy had poured me a glass of wine, and then I went, oh, my beer advent calendar, it's the 1st of December. That's why I've got two tonight. Because today's was the Wild Hare, which is a gluten-free beer, which I don't know why you do that. I suppose if you're celiac, because I think that's good. So yeah, so there you go.
Well, that's cool.
So while we're on the subject of Christmas,
yes,
if the guys listening to this have already tuned into this evening's episode, even though this is Thursday, so we're ahead of time, but that's the confusing world of podcasts.
Yeah.
It was all about Christmas presents.
Yay! Merry Christmas.
Woohoo! Because like many, there's like an annual conversation in this household. It's what would you like for Christmas?
Mm-hmm.
And I have things in my head that I'd really like, and then it's just whether I'm brave enough to ask for them. So last year I got a radio controlled car, and the 2 years before that I got a Lego. I did ask for more Lego this year, but I've been told that there isn't enough space in the house for another Lego model. So that's why we're converting the barn so that next year I can have some more Lego.
Oh, speaking of Lego, have you seen the new app-controlled bulldozer from Lego?
Don't do this to me, Paul.
Oh, it's so cool.
Don't do this to me, because you normally do that. Have you seen this gadget for my bike and end up making me spend thousands of pounds on bikes?
Yeah.
Right. Okay. I need to Google that when I finish this podcast.
Yeah, and everybody who's listening, forget about Lego, just buy lots of stuff from Criterium. But those who want something slightly different, this Lego bulldozer just looks absolutely amazing.
Could be done.
Yeah.
Could be done.
Anyway.
Yeah. So what we did, we went through some suggestions for Christmas presents at different price points, bearing in mind that people have got different budgets, and clearly, if you're buying for yourself, you're using bike pounds. So therefore, everything is really, really cheap. So that doesn't matter. But if you're asking someone else to buy for you, they don't necessarily understand bike pounds.
No.
So that's why we did it lots of different kind of sectors, from 30 quid all the way up to several £100s.
Yeah, and we hope you found the sort of suggestions quite helpful, because often there's a few things that happens in the shop, and it has done year on year on year. Number one, we get absolutely delightful folk coming in wanting to buy bikes as gifts.
As a gift?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And,
wow.
And no, it's lovely. And it's obviously things that the family have discussed. It's not just like a whim. But the problem is that the person who is coming to buy the gift for the person who's going to be the recipient of the gift, quite often they're not cyclists themselves. So they don't understand that you can't just come and buy a bike as a present. So we do lots and lots of things to sort of help sort of ease the flow. So we say, right, okay, well, what type of bike are you looking for, and what sort of budget are you wanting to max out at? And then what we can do is we can almost do a bit, right, okay, well, this is the bike that person will probably best fit, but we want to measure the individual. So sometimes we actually make up like we sort of do something in Word or Photoshop where we sort of crop an image of the bike saying, this is the bike for you, and you're booked in for this date after Christmas, in between Christmas and New Year, to come and get sized for this bike. So there's loads and loads of things that we can help to make things sort of really a surprise, but it still needs to be bespoke for the individual as well. So hopefully these sort of Christmas present ideas are something that you can go, that sort of price point, that would be great for a stocking filler, that would be great as a main present, but kind of every single person who owns and rides any type of bike will benefit from those suggestions.
Yeah, and I guess, I'm probably going to say something here and you'll shout at me now, but we're probably, if it's a kiddie's bike, like their first bike, it's probably a little bit easier to buy a kiddie's bike in terms of sizing, because let's face it, most people would buy a kiddie's bike that's a little bit too big for them to start with, so that they grow into it, and then you live with it being a bit small, because otherwise you'd be buying a new bike like every 6 months.
Yeah, and the other good thing is with kiddie's bike, I'm not going to shout at you at all, that's a really great observation. But I know, flipping heck, Pete doesn't get into trouble.
No, that never happened.
No, but the thing is, with it's quite easy with a kid's bike, because even if you're best with an overall height and an inseam, for example, mainly with kids' bikes, it's just an overall height we need. Well, parents measure kids all the time, so the excuse of saying, let's see how tall you are now. There we go. Just give me that measurement. But if we do need an inseam as well, you can even say, look, we need to get you new sort of uniform for Christmas. So
because kids just don't know.
They just don't know.
Unless they tune into Cycle Sunday, then they will know, hey, hold on, my mum's doing my overall height and inseam measurement. Paul says that's what you need to get the right frame size for your new bike. I'm going to get a Bianchi Ultra XR4 with Super Equid EPS for Christmas. Hurrah!
With a 16-inch wheel and stabilizers.
Yeah. Ped had the most expensive balance bike in the world. I mean, I know I'm only 3, but maybe I'll get that one too.
Yes. Oh, that's brilliant. So kids' bikes, you can sort of safely come in and if you can get a hold of one, that is, you can safely just come in with an overall height, and we can pretty much get you sorted. But anybody who is looking at buying a bike for their adult significant other, if you can't get measurements, then we can still do a sort of surprise gift, but let's not just give you the bike that you then have to go, I need to return that because it doesn't fit the person. But yeah.
I mean, I have to say, Tracy, oh man, this would be a few years ago now. 5-6 years ago, she nailed it. She actually was brave.
Right.
And the reason I'm saying it, you'll understand why. She actually bought me cycle clothing.
Okay.
Right. So I'd said, look, I'd really like some stuff for winter, and it'll go on to what we're going to talk about.
Yeah.
And she went into my local bike shop and talked to Jack, who serviced my bike and did my bike fit and everything, knew me really, really well. And she bought me some fleece-lined cycling shorts, legs, arms, and a jacket, all Castelli, and they all fitted perfectly. It was like the best Christmas present ever.
Yeah,
right?
But did Jack?
But
sorry, carry on. You carry on.
The only reason she managed to pull that one off is that Jack knew my measurements because he'd done my bike fit and knew Castelli clothing really, really well, and it worked out okay, and everything fitted perfectly. But the reason I say that story is, I mean, don't worry, I was a very lucky boy that day because I got some really, really nice kit, and I still use it to this day. But buying clothing is a super personal thing, and I think Tracy only did it because she knew that I was in the local bike shop all the time buying stuff, and Jack knew the stuff I liked and knew my size, knew the kind of riding I did, like you guys do with lots of your clients. You know them personally, and therefore can help. So she did that and did it really well. Having said, had she gone on to an internet website, that rhymes with jiggle or heavens, then you don't necessarily know that, and you can mess up really badly, and you're going to get something that doesn't fit.
You can, and the thing, and the thing is that the reason why I've been sort of giggling to myself as Pete's been giving me that story is that I also deal with people like Peter every single day as well. So what?
So I'm really sorry for you, mate.
So Jack. So Pete's spun this story just in case Tracy listens to this podcast, that it was because Jack had done a bike fit and knew the measurements for Castelli. What Peter isn't saying is that Peter had already organised with Jack the stuff that he wanted to buy. He'd already bought shed loads of Castelli stuff prior to this moment that Tracy didn't know about. So Jack will know exactly what size of Castelli stuff that he wears because of previous purchases that he's hidden from Tracy. And then the moment that Tracy then walks in and says, I'd like to surprise my husband with this, Jack already had a shopping list of which he just basically said, he'll need one of these, one of these, one of these, and one of these, Tracy. Oh, that's really helpful, Jack.
How the hell did you know that? Damn, am I that transparent?
You're not that transparent. You're a bloke. And you're a bloke cyclist. And that's what we deal with all the time.
I tried it again this year because I did say, look, I'm actually want some new some tights and some new overshoes. And she's kind of sort of refused to get me those, so I have to buy those myself.
That's all right.
So that was a win-win.
Yes.
So one of the things we were saying and I think we said it in the video, was buying clothing is quite a personal thing because we've all got our own, our own likes and brands that we like and brands that we don't, and that's either the brands that we don't are either because we don't like the fit or we just don't like the look of them. And there's a few. I'm a bit of a brand snob, unfortunately, when it comes to clothes. So there are a few brands that I just wouldn't want to wear. But yeah, so I did say to her, I said, you could just buy me any Rafa stuff. That's fine. I mean, let's face it. Any cyclist would be happy with getting any kind of Rafa stuff.
Yeah, I mean, it's and one thing, if you do want to get clothing, then one good thing that you could do, genuinely, is just have a shufti in. I was just going to say have a shufti in your husband's or your partner's drawers, but no, let's not do that. But no, you could have a shufti at what clothing that your significant other already has, and if you keep to a similar size and you keep to the same brands, then and also what clothes do you see your other half wearing most of the time? Because that will give you a really good indication of what their favourite brand is. So don't go off the brand that's the one that's sort of on the bottom drawer right at the back that's still got its label on, because the chances are they don't really like it. So always go on the most threadbare product, size and brand, similar colourways, and you actually won't be far wrong. That's another good tip that you can do. Rosie?
The other thing for those listening and watching, the main reason for Paul and I doing this podcast is in the hope that our other halves are watching it or listening to it and they'll buy us some nice stuff for Christmas.
Ain't happening though, is it?
I tell you one thing, a cycle company or cycle clothing company that designs cycle kit that folds up neatly in a drawer would do really, really well, because my cycling kit drawer is just basically just a mess. It's just a bundle of stuff, and every single time I go out for a bike ride, I have to empty the whole thing to find everything.
Do you know,
it's a nightmare. I hate my cycle clothing.
Yeah, no, but the flip side of that is that anybody who's in the actual cycle industry knows that a pair of bib shorts that folds down neatly is a rubbish fit. Because
and also it doesn't. You don't have to iron it. You just stick it in there, and it looks great when it goes on.
Well, that's what we do when we sweat.
I've got this big drawer with all my cycling kit in it and all my gym kit and stuff, and it's just minging. It's all clean, but it's just a nightmare. So okay, so before we move on, because we have got other things we're going to talk about, because again, this podcast is funny because the first season of Cycle Sunday we deep dived into all the technical stuff. This particular one, there wasn't that much technical stuff, but there's some really cool gadgets though. and I was walking around the shop and I'm like, so the Garmin stuff. My problem with my Garmin 1000, I have a really big problem with it, and that is there's nothing wrong with it.
I know.
I know. It works really well. That if I was being super picky, the battery probably, I think, would last maybe 7 hours, something like that. So if I do a ride that's over 7 hours long, then the Garmin dies. But I haven't done one of those for about 2 years.
No.
So my excuse, this is man maths now. My excuse is when I'm going to do a big ride next year on the Ultra that's going to be kind of over 7 hours, I'm going to need to buy a new Garmin.
Well, that's okay. But does it not last over 7 hours if you turn the brightness off auto and to minimum and turn your Bluetooth and your Wi-Fi
I've got
off?
I've got all the wireless on. I've got no, everything's turned off. So no, it's not a big issue. But I that's the problem. I mean, because I do love my Garmin. But yeah, so when we were looking at the Garmins, the bigger ones, because I bought Tracy a smaller one for her e-bike, so that she can kind of keep an eye on how many miles she's doing and that kind of thing. Although the interesting thing about e-bikes actually is you have a massive speedo on an e-bike, and that's one of the things I quite like to see. But I do like to just keep an eye on how many miles each of my bikes has done. So I would like a new Garmin. But the big next purchase for me, really, especially as it's coming into winter, is a really good set of lights.
Yes.
I want to go deep on some proper
you want
lights.
To get exposed. Yeah.
Because I've got quite a nice front light, but I'd like the exposure headlamp that goes on your helmet. Just because Dan and I go out at nighttime mountain biking, and I'd love to do that on the e-bike because I just think that'd be awesome. Nighttime mountain biking on an e-bike.
Awesome. I'm talking to Exposure at the moment about doing an installation on Rosie and my e-bike on an actually permanent wired-in exposure light. So it actually uses the battery system in the bike itself. So the moment that you switch the system on, it switches your light on, and then it also has a remote control, so you can put it to dim and high beam. But they also, the higher powered ones also have what's called reflex technology. So the moment that the bike speed starts dropping under a certain speed, it will also dim the light down to conserve battery power. But the moment that the bike speed exceeds X amount of speed, it will then increase in power. So it's knowing whether you're going uphill, downhill, and all the rest of it.
See, part of these very high end lights, the exposure ones, part of the joy of owning one of those would be having to tell people what the lights do.
Yeah.
There's a pitot tube on the front of my lights, and there's accelerometers, and there's and you just nerd out. It's a bit like, how do you know if someone's a vegan? They tell you. It's the same thing. How do you know if someone's got exposure lights on the bike?
They tell you. Yeah,
they'll tell you.
And the thing is that it's one of the things that's actually annoyed me a little bit about some of the light reviews that I've seen on YouTube recently. I think the way that the videos were put together were pretty good. I think most of the information for what most people would be looking for in a light was good. But the problem was it did miss out a lot of the important information. So number one, nobody spoke about when they were looking at sort of price point differentials. I think one of them, they said, oh, this is the light that I would go for. And this isn't a paid promotion, but this is the light that I would go for because of the value for money and the price and that sort of stuff. But the light manufacturer that they were referring to was basically just an internet direct to market that completely eliminated the bike shop. Now, some people listening goes, well, I don't give a stuff about the local bike shop. Well, you will do if something goes wrong and you then have to sort of post it and package it and then be off the road. Whereas the thing is about an exposure light is the fact that everything is manufactured in the UK, from the actual shell, the lens, the LED, the circuit board, the battery, everything is manufactured in the UK. So if there is...
I love that. I'm getting bigly into my whole buying
Yeah.
UK.
No, that does make sense.
I didn't know that actually. That had escaped me. That makes me want to buy some even more now.
So everything's done in the UK, and also the sort of the thing that a lot of people don't realise with exposure is they can be repaired, right? Oh, what do you mean? You don't just throw them away and just buy another one? No, they can be repaired. If you so Keith, I often talk about Keith, but he is Mr. Winter and commuter bike riding person. He's an absolute animal, and he's great. We love him to bits, and he's run exposure. In fact, Keith was the reason why we've got exposure lights in the shop, because he's used them for
Really?
He's used them for 15 years, and some of his lights are the best part of 10 years old. And similar to the Garmin technology, they just keep going. And a lot of people look at it and they go, oh, they look a bit big and bulky, but you've had them in your hand. Even these big lights, they're so lightweight. And everything's designed to be replaced. Everything's designed to be mounted in loads of different options. And then you get onto the technology, you get onto the gyroscopes, the airflow meters and what have you, that they are well worth the money, people. Just suck it up and get them bought.
Yeah. So that, of all the things we looked at, the bits. Don't know. I'd quite like to put some red deity bars on my rail,
nice.
Because I think they'd look really.
That would look really cool, nice. But you have to go alloy, unfortunately, not carbon.
Have I got carbon at the moment?
You've got alloy at the moment, but Deity do two different bars. They do an alloy version in the red and black, and they do a carbon version in the red and black. And I know you would ordinarily gravitate to the carbon bar, right? The problem is that the colour, the red colour, because it's printed onto carbon, is more like a matte crimson rather than the bright radioactive red. Whereas if you go for the alloy bar, that's a jet black alloy with like a radioactive red decal on it. So I know you love your carbon, but from a colour match perspective...
Look, look. A bike that weighs 20 kilos, I'm not worried about the weight. I know there might be some vibration cancelling in the carbon, but any match. Well, don't.
Oh yeah. So let's hook you up for some of those then.
Yeah, but the problem is fitting them, mate. You are talking about a complete, but even could make. I tell you, one of the things I am going to ask Tracy for Christmas, which we didn't actually mention as a suggestion, but I think actually we could add this to the podcast because I think it's a really good one, is a bike stand.
Yes, that's a really great present. So an actual work stand. Why didn't...
Yeah, like the one you brought to the house when you did
the bits and pieces on your bikes. Yeah. Do you know that's a
how much are
about
they?
£1 million. No, a good right. So you've got lots of different qualities of bike stands. You've got bike stands that you can literally pick up for pennies that will just literally fall over the moment that you put anything bigger than a kid's bike on. And then you've got professional quality bike stands. And then you've got sort of committed amateur bike stands. And that is what I'd always recommend. So the bike stand that I brought down was from Park Tool, which is just a fabulous brand. Everybody who's into bikes knows Park Tool.
Your workshop is like Park
Yeah,
Tool,
because it's
so there must be a reason for that, right?
yeah,
Because
and
they're really good.
I always like to say to folk who's into cars, Park Tool is the sort of snap-on of the bike world. That's the best way of thinking about it. Yeah, yeah.
Oh, good
So it's
analogy.
just a snap-on of the bike
Yeah,
world. They just everything. You never worry about engaging a Park Tool on your bike and worry about rounding off a bolt or damaging something. Everything just works really well.
yeah,
And the great thing about their stands, and you're probably looking about sort of 275 to 350 quid for a really good quality stand that you can then use to put your alt tray through to your e-bikes in, and you then know that that bike's going to be properly fixed and it's not going to damage anything either. And one of the things that is really clever about a park stand, and the vast majority of your money goes into the head, so the actual part that affixes your bike to the stand. And as I say, I'm not going to get
yeah.
nerdy on that on the podcast. People will drift off, but that is what you are paying for on a Park Tool work stand, is the quality of the head that affixes the bike to the stand.
So the reason for the a couple of things. Firstly, cleaning your bike.
Yeah,
It's super easy. Stick it on one of those, and you can kind of get around it in all directions and stuff.
yeah,
But the big driver for me, and we haven't done the rail video yet. That's next week.
yeah,
But one of the things I didn't realize until I had the e-bike here is when I get back from a ride on my traditional mountain bike
yeah,
and I want to clean it and I want to clean all the drivetrain, I
yeah.
normally spray degreaser on the cassette and on the chain. And then
Don't spray
what?
degreaser on your cassette.
Why you told me to?
No, I did not. I did not.
All right, no, all right, okay. The cleaner stuff then. I'll put the cleaner stuff on there then.
The one step
Yeah.
purely for the chain.
Ooh,
Yes.
oh,
Yeah.
okay. Every day's a school day.
Yeah. Do you not watch my videos on our website?
No, not really. So, okay. So, because one of the things I was going to say,
Yes.
I got come on the podcast to get a bollocking from Mr. Bowker, is that on a normal bike,
Yeah.
if it was on on the ground, if you reverse pedal,
Yeah.
you can just put the chain through and wash it and clean it off and stuff.
Yes. Yes.
With an e-bike,
Yeah.
it doesn't do that. You can't reverse pedal. It just doesn't. The crank goes around, but the chain doesn't move.
Yeah. So just to unpack that for folk, on
Yeah,
a on a
I knew you. I thought you might.
on a Bosch motor system, when you back pedal with the crank arm, so you grab hold of the pedal and you start back pedaling, on a traditional bike system, the chain ring is permanently attached to the crank arm. So as you start backpedaling the pedal, the chain ring will rotate backwards. Therefore, it's really easy to clean and lubricate the chain.
Yes.
On a Bosch motor, there is the equivalent of a free hub built into the motor. That means that when you push forward on the pedal, it then locks the chainring and drives the bike forward. But when you back pedal, it doesn't reverse the chainring. And that's what Pete's referring to. So yeah, you're 100% right. We had that conversation when we were down together, that it's so much easier.
I was like, I want to clean my chain.
Yeah. It is a bit of a game changer with an e-bike when you have your bike in a work stand, and then what you can do is you can just
then you can just go forwards.
correct. Yeah. Yes.
Yeah. So that for me, I was thinking, if I had one of those work stands,
Yeah.
then I could do that. And then just little things like, when you were down, we did a little bit with my rear brakes. I just needed my brake pads deglazing, and
Yeah.
you put it on the stand, taking the wheel off super easy. I mean, for me, I would have had to put the bike upside down on the
Right.
seat and the handlebars and take the wheel
Yeah.
off that way.
Yeah.
So on a work stand, super easy. So
Yeah.
that might be my Christmas present I might ask for.
That's a good idea.
Yeah. That'd be great.
I could even deliver it.
Right. Yeah. What, in your sleigh?
In my sleigh. I'm fat enough and my beard's growing. I think I'm nearly there.
So that's good. And then I might then actually, yeah, that's a really good plan. Really, really good plan.
Yeah.
So, okay. Excellent. I'll just give Tracy your number and she can sort that out with you. So... So there you go. So there's my Christmas present sorted. So put it in the comments. What are you guys asking Santa for from the bike shop? What would you like? What are the kind of lovely little things that you want? And as I said, that I think the challenge is for me with bikes. A lot of the stuff I want is little things that I see, or they're quite personal things. So but you can't go far wrong with a new set of bottle cages, some bottles, some supplements, a pack of gels, or that kind of stuff. But actually, no, even with gels, you just got to make sure it's the brand that the rider uses.
Yes,
because I am a big SIS fan.
Oh, really?
And I'm not a big. Yeah.
Really?
Only.
Ooh.
Yeah. There you go. There you go.
Yeah.
So you because you use
I use Torque product personally, but particularly when an SIS gel is warm, and you put it in your mouth, it sort of enlightens my gag reflex. I'll be honest.
Oh no,
yeah.
Where big SF, but it's not funny.
Whereas Torque is I always find it quite good.
And then the worst thing is when you go on a Sportif and it's like sponsored by, I don't know, High Five or something, because I don't like High Five.
Yeah.
And they give you out loads of free gels, and like, no, I'm glad I brought my own.
Yeah. So even stuff like that is really personal. And don't forget, everybody, when it comes to bike stuff, never worry about a gift voucher for your local bike shop. Yeah. Because it's one of those things, if you know that your significant other's got a good relationship with the local bike shop and they do a gift voucher, we do a gift voucher, by the way, but if your local bike shop does do a gift voucher, I know that because we get folk going, oh, no, I don't want to buy a gift voucher because I want them to open something. Now, I really get that. But the thing is that, can I just tell you from your significant other's perspective, they will not care if they've got a gift voucher, and they'd arguably prefer a gift voucher that they can then go into the local bike shop and pick what they want rather than open something that they then need to return. So it is one of those things that gift vouchers for cyclists genuinely do work well. Is that fair to say, Peter? For, you're a customer and a cyclist. I'm also a customer and a cyclist, and that's what we feel.
It is because I'll give you a non-cycling example, because Tracy and I were chatting last week about Christmas presents and stuff. And she said, I've already tried to buy something. So I, as well as cycling, I do a bit of running. I'm not particularly great at running, but I find that running is if I've only got half an hour or 45 minutes, I'll go out for a run. I'll do 5K and that's great. And I run with the dog and love it. But I tend to run in compression socks.
Okay.
So Trace thought she'd buy me a new pair of compression socks.
Right.
But Christmas, they're quite expensive, actually, compression socks. A decent pair.
Yeah.
So she went into the running shop and said, I'd like to buy some compression socks for my husband. And the first question was, what size calf is he? And she's like, thin?
Yeah. I was going to say non-existent.
Stalk calf? So she said, so you're not getting some compression socks for Christmas? She said, I didn't know. I thought it was super easy.
Yeah.
So it's always the way, So let's kind of move on a bit. I notice I've now opened my gluten-free beer for those of you watching on YouTube.
Yeah. Am I okay? Because I've done a very silly thing.
Where's your wine?
Yeah.
Where's your bottle of wine?
I've parked my wine.
Is it out of
over
reach?
there, and I'm over here.
Very
So
It's very unprofessional.
It's very
It's
unprofessional.
unprofessional for you to move.
It is.
Just leave me and I'll chat about you.
That's
Don't
it.
worry.
You carry on. Excellent stuff. I'm not going to take my headphones
yeah.
with me and take the microphone, but there we go. The
No,
wine's coming.
So I'll give you commentary. So,
Well done.
So at this point, for those of you listening to the podcast, Paul has now taken his headphones off and he's going over to the little kitchen area to get a bottle of wine. Rosie, if you're listening, the wine is alcohol free, and it's special low calorie wine. He's back. So the other thing, what we'll just add. So the initial recording of this evening's podcast, Paul was actually in the shop with alcohol free beer. And we got 5 minutes into recording the podcast, and there was this horrific audio problem.
Yes.
Paul's end, I might add.
Yeah.
And it was so bad that we just thought, you know what, this isn't working. So Paul went back to the flat and he's recording.
Yeah, because there's one thing that we love your comments. We genuinely love your comments and keep them coming. And there is one thing that winds you up more than anything else, and that is rubbish audio quality. I don't think you guys care whether almost what we're talking about, and also, but the audio quality is imperative.
I'm gonna actually talk about this for a moment because I think it's important because there's a podcast a few weeks ago, the last one that Richard was on. And Paul in the shop has an amazing podcast setup. He's bought a Rode podcast setup that costs like 1,500 quid, and the mics are brilliant. However, there's a real technique to mics. You have to kind of really talk over them, and if you don't, they don't pick up the audio well. And that particular podcast, we got a few negative comments about the audio quality. And all we want to say is we're still learning. I think this is like the 25th podcast or something. I can't remember how many podcasts we've done now. A lot, but we're still learning, and the technique of recording them, and the kit that we use, and where we are, and we try and do the nice lighting for those people watching on YouTube, and a nice background, and it's the same for me when I do my YouTube videos. Audio is the most difficult thing to do. That's why with my vintage voltage stuff, back in the day when telly shows had lots of budget, you'd have a sound guy who just does the audio. And actually nowadays you very rarely have a sound guy.
And that's the thing.
Although the coolest thing is I'm a sound guy when I was doing vintage voltage, and his mobile phone number was the first 5 digits were 07, and then it was 12121212. That was his mobile phone number. It's like, that's the coolest phone number.
That is absolutely fantastic. And this is the thing, is that Peter's got years and years and years and years of presenting, so understands what it is to talk and look into a camera. I'm less so. I'm a few years in now. But the thing is, we've invested massively. So, for example, what you're looking at me if you're watching YouTube at the moment, and I've got the best part of 800 quid's worth of DSLR camera to try and give you a reasonable picture. We're not doing this through.
And it's rubbish.
It's good because I'm in it. But the thing is that, we're not trying to do this through a cheap webcam and cheap microphones and all that sort of stuff. We're really putting...
I am.
Oh, you are, yeah. But we're really putting an effort in. And sometimes and I bet you 10 to 1, it'll just be a setting somewhere. It's not the equipment, it's the operators using it, or in particular me. So there we go. But we just
and
thank
interesting,
you.
actually, before someone puts a comment, about 5 minutes ago, there was some background audio that sounded a bit ropey, but it's gone now. So that's
no. And I tell you exactly what that was. Did it almost sound like a big fan going off in the background? Yeah. It's because there was a big fan going off in the background. My laptop is in between the microphone and the camera, and for some reason, the laptop just decided to light up its fans, which is why anybody who was watching saw that I brought my microphone ever so much slightly towards me to try and get it away from. Seriously, guys, this is hard work.
I mean, I do part of my my day job, I still do a little bit of it now. I do some voiceover recording, and that's what this mic's for. And I've got like a setup that I'd use for that kind of, tries. The other problem for me is I live in a barn. So if anybody can see in the background, it's lovely, but it's terrible for echo.
Yeah.
It's like, but yeah. So anyway, let's get back to Cycle Sunday. Now we've talked about that.
Tales of woe.
For the last 20 minutes or so, we thought we might have a chat about winter riding, because last week we talked about road bikes and winter bikes and stuff. And we have talked a little bit about this before. But I thought it's worth just chatting about some basics about what you wear on a bike in the winter.
And in fairness, and I've not written it down, I'm sorry, this was a comment. This was a comment of in last week's video.
Oh, no, it was. I remember.
Yeah, so it was a comment, and I'm so sorry. I'll give you a shout out next week. Please write that down. I'll give you a shout out next week. But yeah, it was a gentleman who put in the comments, really great podcast. Thanks for that. But you didn't talk about winter clothing. So here we are today.
Yeah, let's talk about winter clothing. So a few things. So and it'd be quite interesting to see, because there's a big difference between Paul and I. Is that Paul is like a small nuclear power station when he's riding. It's a big heat and sweat generator. Yes. So I guess the first thing to say probably actually is it depends on what your internal temperature generator is like, as to what you wear. Because if you do really generate some heat, I think the best basic approach is just layers. Right. So, because you can, if you wear lots of layers, then you can always take them off.
I can make this really easy for you.
Go on then.
Rosie is amazing at this. And do you know what?
No, yeah, that's because Rosie, if she was sat on a beach, 25 degrees temperature, she'd have about 5 layers on, and she'd be
gilet. No,
because she's rubbish at temperature, and you live in Scotland. Basically, Scotland rains and it's cold all the time.
It's the reason why she married me. Is as Peter.
What? Because you're so hot. And
that's
you warm
exactly
her up.
It. She just literally uses me. She's like an aurora fish on a shark. She just literally sort of clings on and steals my heat.
Basically, you are her hot water bottle.
I'm a hot water bottle. That is all I am. That's my sole use in life, is to basically warm my wife up. But no, she's got a really good strategy that never fails. And if you use this as a sort of precursor to your layers, you'll be spot on.
Yep.
Her technique is just be chilly in the car park.
Yes.
Okay? So don't be cold. So what you're wearing, if you're cold in the car park, you need to put just another layer.
Yeah.
If you're warm with what you're wearing in the car park, you're going to overheat. So when you're just about to leave and your body's cold, so you've not started exercising yet, if you leave the car park going, oh, I need to get started now, otherwise I'm going to get cold, that's about your perfect layering to start with. Okay, that's a really good technique. And the other thing that is really important, and so many people get this wrong, number one is you buy a cycle shoe to fit summer thickness socks, and then you layer the outside. You never buy a cycle shoe that is too big so you can then put a winter sock inside. Okay. So it's really important that cycle shoes are designed to be built up from the outside, but still with a summer sock on the inside, unless you've got a specific winter shoe. And I think we've covered that before. So that shoes first of all.
Good.
Then the other thing, and I learnt this from mountaineering more than anything else, is always build your layers first of all around your core, not your extremities. So always remember that your extremities are radiators for your core temperature. So what basically happens is if you keep warming your core will then send warm blood out to your extremities, so your hands and your feet, to then use those to cool your core temperature down. So basically, Rosie would do this better because she's a biologist and I'm not. But that's effectively how your body works in very simplistic terms. So if you are feeling cool, don't put on thicker socks and thicker gloves. Put more around your core. So a gilet or something like that works really well.
Yeah.
And then finally, try and use more windstopper product as opposed to waterproof product. And again, we covered that in actually that was in the episode where the audio was a bit dodgy. So, but that was the thing that we did cover, was the fact that if you're using more sort of windproof stuff, that allows you your core temperature to breathe better, or your body to breathe better. Yeah. So those are your basic principles of dressing for summer and just dressing on a bike, really.
Yeah. No, I'd go with that. I if I'm cold in the first 10 to 15 minutes of a ride, I know I've put the right clothes on.
Yes, that's perfect. Yes,
because and it was funny. It's funny you talk about the radiator thing, because a couple of years ago, because I do get, when you get really cold hands and cold fingers, and you get on your bike when it's really cold, and you think, oh man, even though I wear long gloves or whatever, you think my hands are really, really cold. So I bought these kind of lobster mitt things. I don't know if you've seen them.
You
the
bought
ones where
you bought them.
Yeah. Shut up. They looked all right. They were bright. They were like Lumo orange or Lumo green. And I thought, oh, they look good. They'll keep, because you can cut there for road bikes. They'll keep my hands nice.
Yeah.
Within about half an hour, my hands were sweating.
Yes.
They were pants for the ones.
Yes. That's why I said you bought them.
Yeah, well, they looked all right. I can't remember who made them now. I won't shout them out because they were pants.
Yeah.
But the big one is overshoes and shoes, I think, because I think your feet, once your feet get cold on a ride, it's a miserable place.
Yes.
I think your hands and your fingers, you can kind of get away with it. But if you get really cold feet, it's a miserable, miserable place. And I know we talked about on the podcast you just referred to about just buying a really decent set of winter boots.
Yes.
Or kind of, they're not the cheapest things in the world, but they'll sort you out.
Yeah.
I do, on my mountain bike, I've got a pair of sealskin socks.
Do you like them?
Dan bought me. Only because they keep my feet cold, keep my feet warm and dry, but they are a bit big and thick for the mountain bike shoes I had.
Okay.
But they were better than nothing.
Yes.
This year I might well be investing in a decent pair of mountain bike winter boots, I think.
Yeah, seriously, Peter, they are. In fact, that'd be a good shout out for a Christmas present as well.
As well as a £300 bike stand.
Yeah,
I don't know if I've been that good this year.
I think you have,
Tracy. Here's here's my shopping list for Christmas presents: £600, but it's bike pounds.
Yes,
so that's okay.
Yeah, and companies to look at for waterproof boots, and we don't sell them, so this would be a sort of online purchase. So Cidi make a really nice winter boot if you can, if your feet will fit. And the other one who do really, really well is, another two actually, is Northwave. Northwave make a really nice winter series of boots for both the mountain bike clip-in system and a road clip-in system as well. So if you're a winter road rider and you're still in winter on your winter bike, where the road style cleat system, Northwave still do a lovely carbon soled shoe which has got a Gore-Tex liner to it, so that works really nicely. And then Shimano also do a good set as well, and I own a pair of Shimano MW12s, I want to say, and they were from 2012 when I bought those, and they are still going strong today.
Oh.
Really
The
good.
good news for me, thinking about it, is that my outdoor cycling over the winter is likely to either be on the Arcadex
Yeah.
or
Or the rail.
on the rail,
Yes.
and they both got the same cleats.
Yes. Yeah.
So I can just buy the same shoes.
Yes, that's right. That's right. And then just go,
Awesome.
just go and ride the bike that you want. And I would personally, if you, that's a really good point actually. If you're working towards wanting to double use your winter shoes, which is sensible, do get a more cross-country orientated mountain bike shoe rather than a more enduro style mountain bike shoe, because that's going to work better on your gravel bike versus your mountain bike.
There you go.
Yeah.
Very cool. Very cool. Tracy.
Yeah.
Tracy, if you're listening.
She's not. I can assure you. She's switched off now. She was listening.
I know.
Yeah.
No, yeah.
Yeah.
So, by the way, I'm not going to shout out the gluten-free beer ain't all that.
No, how does that work?
I don't know. I'm not enjoying it.
No. Okay. That's just wasted calories. Sorry.
The second we finished, well, I'm actually seeing my trainer at 8:00 tomorrow morning, so that's going to be a bit.
Yeah. Yeah. All good.
Because I'm on a massive fit thing.
Yeah.
Obviously, drinking beer while we're on the podcast.
I know. I need to get myself sorted.
Yeah, well, next year we've got lots of big rides to do, my friend.
We do.
So and we got by the way, just a quick mention. By the way, I want to give a big shout out to Bianchi Germany and Bianchi Austria.
Hello.
For sharing the build video on their social.
Yes.
I thought that was awesome.
Yes.
Absolutely awesome.
Yes.
So that was very, very cool. So I just want to give a shout out for that.
Yeah, very much.
So, as we come to the end of the hour, which it's gone very fast.
It has actually.
I thought I'd just a quick heads up to next week.
Okay.
We've only got 2 episodes of Cycle Sunday left before Christmas.
Does that mean we need to go and actually come together and do recording for season 3?
Yeah.
Yay.
We've got to start planning that one, baby. Absolutely.
What do you want to see, dear listeners? So in season 3, come on, get in the comments. What do you want to see? Do you want to see more riding content? Do you want to see more nerdy content? Do you want to see more bike builds? What do you want to see?
Ped and Paul drag race.
Ped and Paul drag race. And I get to use my e-bike.
Yeah. That'd be so fun.
Yeah.
We do need to actually go out for a bike ride together, mate.
Yes.
I'm sorry, but it's been a long time. So next week, next week's really exciting because next week is the bike that should never have been.
Right.
Next week is we started Cycle Sunday to build a lovely road bike, and then I just basically got obsessed with e-bikes. The more we started to talk about them, and then when I was up in Edinburgh back in the beginning of the year, I had a very quick whiz round the road, round the car park. I went, oh my God, they're good.
Yeah.
And then we did the bike videos, and in the end, I ended up, and then Tracy kind of bought one, and we had that here, and I just said, look, I need to buy one of these.
Yes.
So I bought an e-bike, and mine's a full suspension e-bike called a Trek Rail 9.5, and next week's video is about that bike. And what I found fascinating, and it's trying not to do too many spoilers for next week, really, but I've been out on a few rides already and posted some stuff on Strava and posted stuff on social. And I have had a few comments, big wuss, e-bike, cheating. And I know we've talked about it already, but I will now tell you, and this is no word of a lie, if I go out on my e-bike, I come back just as destroyed as I would have done had I been riding my gravel bike or had I been riding my road bike.
Yep.
The difference is I've just gone farther and faster. That's it. The end.
Amen.
You get to the top of a climb, and interestingly, I try to kind of do some climbs in eco only,
Yep.
because I want to work hard.
Yep.
And don't get me wrong, I'm sure there are some people who just stick it in turbo everywhere, but that's not the point for me. I'll get to do some climbs in eco, but the coolest thing that I love about it is you get to you can go, I wonder what's down there. And I made a nav error on a route I know really, really well, but I came up a big hill that's literally just at the back of my house on a track, and I just got confused and went right instead of going straight on.
Yeah.
And I suddenly realized, oh no, I'm going back down the hill. Had I been on my mountain bike, I'd have stopped, turned around, and come back up again. But I thought, no, I'll do this descent and then I'll come back up the hill again.
Brilliant.
Because I'm on an e-bike.
Yes.
And it was ace.
Yep.
And I got home and I was absolutely done.
Yes.
Physically done.
Yes.
And I thought, anybody who thinks an e-bike is cheating has clearly never ridden an e-bike.
I don't need to add anything to that, do I?
No. So next week, I'm going to add something because you made me spend more money. Salesman. So I was very lucky. I'd said to Paul, because in season 3, I think there'll be much more stuff on the rails, because one of the things that happened was that Paul and Rosie bought a Rail 9.5.
Yeah, same bikes.
Exactly the same bike, same colorway. Well, actually, when you buy a Trek Rail, the different model numbers have different colors, right?
Yes,
or all Rail 9.5s black and red.
All 9.5s in the model year that we bought them in were black and red. In the 2022 model year, they're factory orange. But other than that, the specs are fairly similar.
Okay.
Yep.
So that they bought a bike, and then we thought, well, firstly, I quite like an e-bike, but let's buy the bike. And then the interesting thing about the bike I've bought is it's the carbon fiber frame, so the best frame in the Rail family, but with the entry level component set.
Correct.
So that gives us scope to upgrade stuff.
Yep.
And what we wanted to try and do was to talk about stuff, and this will be in season 3, really, is to look at the upgrades and see how you upgrade a bike depending on your style of riding, and where you ride. Because we've got 3 bikes, and Rosie's upgrading her bike with some stuff that's different to what Paul's putting on his bike, and both of those are different to what I put on mine. And I think that's fascinating.
It is fascinating. So you've totally got it, because we both ride in all 3 of us. No, not all 3 of us. So you ride in different locations and on different terrain to Rosie and me, but Rosie and me are totally different weights to each other, riding on the same terrain. So that's the point. We've spec'd the bikes in terms of upgrades to be able to create the perfect bikes for each of us as an individual, as opposed to just a generic, that's what the factory's given us.
So I then said, okay, Paul, I'd quite like a Rail 9.5, please. And he said, well, I've actually got one on the system. Would you like to put some money down on it? And I went, yes, here's some of my hard-earned shilling. So I put my deposit down, and I got very excited. And then it came in, and then I actually paid for the bike. And then I didn't see the bike for like 3 months. It was the most expensive thing I've ever bought and not seen. And
that's for no other reason, the fact that you were 500 miles between us. Let's be honest. Yeah.
Oh yeah. I mean, you could have done a nationwide delivery for me, but
and I offered, and you said no, because I'm coming up to do season 2 of Cycle Sunday.
Exactly. So that's all good. And I want to spoil the next video next week too much. But then Paul, about 2 weeks before I came up to build the Bianchi, said, "Hey Ped, we've got some really cool things that we could do to your rail, my friend. I mean, because the wheels on your rail, bear in mind, he just sold me this £5,500 bike. The wheels on your rail are a bit pony so we could upgrade them with some nice carbon wheels. And I'm like,
Did he just say carbon?
Yeah, carbon. Oh. And those carbon wheels are tubeless ready, so you could run tubeless tyres instead of tube. I'm like, oh. And by the way,
spoiler alert, stop. You've got to watch next week's video.
There's more stuff that you could buy. So I spent lots of money. But my bike's awesome now.
You're loving it, aren't you? You're absolutely loving it.
I absolutely love it. It's awesome. Yes. Absolutely awesome. So next week, the video next week is we filmed it when I was up the other week when we built the rail, when we built the old tray. So we walk through the bike and then walk through the modifications on the bike. And interestingly, some of the modifications that Paul presented to me, but were just horrifically expensive, so we didn't do them. But we talk about some of the things you could do. Then when we watch the mods being done, and then I bring the bike home and I take it for my first ride, and it just, it's rubbish. So that's next week. So you need to tune in for that.
I will. I've not seen it. I will. I'm looking forward to it.
You never have seen it. No. You haven't seen tonight's one either. So if you have enjoyed tonight's podcast, make sure you kind of like it and share it and subscribe it. And if you're on iTunes, give us a rating, and all of those things help push the podcast to more people. But one of the things, if you've got ideas for season 3 or any questions for the podcast, we are, by the way, lining up some really cool guests for the podcast that will probably be now in the early new year. We've got a couple of, if one of them comes off, it would be awesome. Won't say any more than that. Paul knows what I'm talking about. But yes, so we really want to try and take the podcast up to the next level. But for now, because we're just scratched over our 1 hour
before you go,
kind of arbitrary. Oh, here we go.
What do you say? Incoming. I don't know if this would work, but just as a thing for season 3,
yes,
tell us, viewers and dear listeners, is this something that you'd be interested in? But I'm just thinking Goodwood is just round the corner from you, isn't it?
Yes.
And you are a exceptional driver. You're good.
I'll try.
Okay. You've done a few laps around Goodwood.
I've done a lot of laps around Goodwood, yeah.
I'm just wondering whether a Paul and Ped, how fast can you get a bike round a lap of Goodwood versus getting a lap around Goodwood in Ruby Roadster, and see how close Paul and Ped, bike and car, can get to each other.
Oh, what? So, I
so
see.
What's the delta?
How fast can you drive a car round versus you? Me? And how fast can I cycle? Right, okay. I like that.
Yeah. What's the delta difference between 2 cyclists and 2 drivers?
Yeah, I like that a lot. I mean, there will be, as a natural consequence of things that are happening in Goodwood, there will be more cycling stuff happening down here because there's some really cool cycling stuff happening.
Oh, great!
Next year. And we're all going to get involved in that. So we are getting invited to do stuff. I met with some people this week who have got some amazing stuff happening in the cycling space. So, we want to try and bring more. But for now, we're going to bring this podcast to a close because we could just talk all evening. But I've got to go on. I've got a pup that needs to go. Do you need to go out? The girls, I'm going to just do something. If you're watching on YouTube now, you can kind of just see.
Hello, pups.
They're just on their beanbag. Look, there you go.
Yeah.
Anyway,
they weren't last week though, were they?
No, they were on us.
Yeah.
For now, if you've enjoyed that one, make sure again like, share, subscribe, ratings, everything you can to push this podcast to more people. But
please,
for now, I've been Pete Greaves,
and I've been Paul Bowker.
You ride safe, guys.
Ride safe, everyone.